Good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful day here in Louisiana, and I want to thank all of you for joining AARP Louisiana's Fraud Telephone Town Hall. Today, we're tackling an issue that affects so many of us: fraud and scams. Every year, millions of Americans and tens of thousands of Louisianans right here lose their hard earned money to scammers. And unfortunately, older adults are often targeted the most. They can be our friends, our family, our neighbors, or even ourselves. That's why AARP is committed to fighting fraud and keeping you informed. I'm going to have several resources to share with you throughout this morning's call. And at the end of the call, you'll have an opportunity to receive more of that information. And in fact, if you've received the AARP bulletin for March and April, you'll see that practically the entire issue is devoted to educating you on how crooks are using AI, how to protect your financial resources, and how to avoid new scams. So check it out if you've already received your copy. But the purpose of this call today is to hear from you. So for sake of time, we're going to jump right in. If you've been on one of our telephone town halls before, you know we set them up like a radio call-in talk show where you can ask questions live on the air. So if you would like to comment, share your story, or ask a question, press *3 on your telephone keypad to be connected with an AARP staff member. We'll then handle your call and get it to our guest. And we also encourage you to have a pen and paper handy. Like I mentioned, when we do start providing some of those helpful websites and resources or phone numbers, you'll be able to write those down during the conversation. So let's get started. I'm excited to introduce today's guest, no stranger to AARP. That's Carmen Million. Carmen is the CEO of the Better Business Bureau of South Central Louisiana. She's worked for the BBB for over 40 years, and her office covers more than 12 parishes in the Baton Rouge area, focusing on providing the community with information that affects businesses and consumers. Welcome, Carmen.
Thank you, Andrew, for having me. Glad to be
All
here.
right. Well, we're glad to have you. And we know that you're going to have all kinds of great information for our listeners this morning. So let's jump right in. The Federal Trade Commission just released its 2024 fraud report, and the numbers are pretty alarming. There were 6.5 million reports of fraud across the United States, with total losses reaching almost $12.5 billion. That's billion with a B and two L's. And right here in Louisiana, we saw more than 68,000 reports of fraud, with losses totaling $89.4 million. That's more than twice as much that was reported just 2 years ago. And these are health-related scams, real estate-related scams, cryptocurrency scams, auto, gift card. The list goes on and on. But the top three types of fraud were credit bureau and information furnishing, identity theft, and imposter scams. So, Carmen, starting right at the top with this new report, what do these numbers tell us about the current fraud landscape, and why do you think we're seeing such a significant increase here in Louisiana?
Well, of course, anytime there are issues or disasters or whatever the case may be, of course, scammers are looking out to take advantage of consumers, and senior citizens are a target. We are aware of that. Right now, we feel like the biggest reason consumers are targeted is because of the economy. They feel like things are tight. They're looking for assistance, help, whatever. So they're going to be vulnerable. And so people make bad decisions when they're in a desperate situation. The economy is making people feel stressed.
That all makes complete sense. We're talking about identity theft and imposter scams topping the list. What are some of the trends that you're seeing, behind those types of fraud? And again, who's being targeted the most? We hear that it's mostly older adults. Is that still accurate?
Well, of course, adults will always be a target. Unfortunately, with technology, it allows every consumer to be a potential victim. And we always tell people, if the situation is right, If the timing is right, anybody can be a potential victim. And of course, senior citizens are more available than most consumers. However, when we talk about imposter scams, the biggest scenario that we're seeing, it continues, it's nothing new, of course, is where you're getting a call and you're being told that it's from the Internal Revenue Service, or it's from Social Security, or it's some kind of government agency that's either going to give you a grant, or there's some reason of importance that they're trying to catch your attention. In fact, one of the things we're seeing right now, which is concerning, is that, and again, it's nothing new, is that we may get a call from a senior citizen that says they found out about a grant or some kind of way to get money from a friend on Facebook. And so all they have to do is click on this link. And what we have to explain to them is there are several victims in this scam. The the friend that supposedly sent them the Facebook link or message, their list of friends have been hacked, so they're a victim. You're a potential victim if you think it's your friend and you click on the link, because their ultimate goal is to get your money, your information, your personal identity, so that they can steal your identity and steal money from you.
It's very, very good information. If you get a text or a call from a government agency, more than likely, in fact, almost certainly, it's going to be a scam. All right, if you want to ask a question to Carmen, please hit *3 on your keypad. We don't have any questions in the queue right now, so this is your opportunity. You'll be first on the list. Press *3 on your telephone keypad, and you'll be routed to one of our screeners, and our screener will take your question, and then they'll connect it to us, and then we'll be able to ask that question of Carmen. So if you want to learn more about how to protect yourself, how to protect your family, or if you just want to share your fraud story, now's the time to do that. Press *3 on your keypad, and you'll get right into our queue. So stories, questions, whatever issue you want to ask about, now is the time to do that. All right, Carmen. So credit card scams currently make up about 44% of all identity theft cases reported here in Louisiana. What are some of the common ways that scammers are getting access to people's credit card information, and what can I do, or what can consumers do to protect themselves?
Well, of course, online scams are a big issue. And one of the things we tell people is, if you're going to shop online, if you're going to do any business online, then of course we encourage you to use your credit card. And of course, when you use your credit card, it puts you at a higher risk. However, understand that if somebody's charged something on your credit card, normally you have the opportunity, in fact, you do have the opportunity to contact your credit card company and dispute the charge. And that's why it's so important to use your credit card, not your debit card. If you use your debit card, they take money out of your account and it's hard to get back. Having said that, it makes you more vulnerable with your credit card. A lot of times, people will find charges, will have charges on their card that they didn't authorize, they don't know about, until they get their invoice, until they get their bill, and then they need to dispute it. There are also cases where people, when their identity's been stolen, scammers will actually open up accounts in their name without their knowledge. So there are different scenarios. So our tip there is, one, always check your credit card bill, period. Every month, no matter what, go line by line and make sure that you made the charges. And if you have a question, you need to get with your credit card company first. If you're getting credit card applications in the mail or invoices in the mail, you need to contact that company immediately and tell them, one, that you do not have a credit card, you did not open a credit card, nor did you authorize it to be opened. You want to dispute that immediately. And then, of course, if you are receiving several of those notices, you may potentially be a victim of identity theft. And so your next step would be to go to annualcreditreport.com, get a copy of your credit report, and if there are any severe issues, you might want to put a freeze on your credit, and you can do it at that site.
Good information. Okay, I want to come back to that maybe a little bit later, but for now, we have a couple of questions in the queue, so we're going to go ahead and get to some of our questions. We have a caller from St. Francisville who has a question about scam calls. So we're going to go to Oseel Harris. Oseel,
Yes.
you there?
Yeah.
Did I pronounce your name right? Did I get it right?
Oseel.
Okay, great. Well, Oseel, go ahead and ask your question of Carmen, to Carmen.
Okay. I have scans call me 2 and 3 times a day. How do I block that number?
You know, that's such a good question, and we're asked that question every day. And let me tell you the truth. Scammers can manipulate the phone system, and they have technology on their side, and they're very intelligent. And unfortunately, you can block each call, but all they're going to do is just put in another number and call you. So it's very hard to stop it completely. I mean, you can turn it over to different agencies, IC3.gov, the Federal Trade Commission, but it's very, and even your phone company, but it's very hard to stop it completely. Our advice is never to answer the phone if you don't recognize the number, or if you're not expecting a call. Let it go to voicemail. And if they don't leave a voicemail or a message, then it's probably a scam, and ignore it. It's just
Okay.
very hard to stop it. And you're getting those calls, we're getting those calls. They actually call the Better Business Bureau office as well. So it's very hard to stop it. But you also want to be your best protector. Don't answer it if you don't know who it is. Telling them to stop calling you is not going to work. These scammers are going to be very diligent, and they're going to continue to call you, and it's very hard to stop it.
Yeah.
So the best advice is just don't answer.
No.
Don't answer it. I mean, you can call your telephone provider and see if they have some assistance for you, but it's not going to be 100%. There's no way to completely stop it,
Gotcha.
unfortunately.
All right, we're going to go to Mary in Church Point. She has a question about toll-free calls, and I have to admit, I've gotten some of these myself. We're going to go to Mary in Church Point. Mary, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Mary, let's go ahead and ask your question to Carmen. Go for it.
Carmen, I am 81 years old and have been harassed that I owe money for a toll-free charge on a bridge or something, and my car has never passed. I'm an old lady. I don't go nowhere where they got a toll bridge. Is there any way I can? They told me that the last phone call I got was that the law was coming to pick me up because I had not paid these charges. And when you're old, you worry. It's scary. Is there any way to stop this?
Well, again, it's the same thing as the last caller. If you don't recognize a number, no matter what they're telling you, do not respond. And I'll tell you, I just got back from Austin. My husband and I flew to Austin because we have 2 kids there. And we're driving in the car, one of my sons and my husband and I. And at the same time, we all get the same message that we owe an old bill from a toll. The same thing that you're getting. You're getting it. Everybody else is getting it. The best thing to do is not talk to them. Do not answer the call. And I know it's very hard to do it, but just ignore it if possible. And understand that, first of all, if you even owed the bill, let's just say you owed the bill, you will never, ever, you cannot get arrested for debt you owe. So the police department is never going to come to you. What they're doing is they're essentially using fear as a tactic to get you to pay. And they're going to continue to call you until they feel like you're no longer going to speak with them. As long as you don't answer the phone, you'll be fine. In fact, up until yesterday, we flew back in yesterday morning, up until yesterday afternoon, I was still getting the threatening calls. You just ignore it. And it's unfortunate, but it's what you have to do. You can try to block the number, but unfortunately, they're going to just use another number to call you back. If you don't talk to them, eventually they'll get tired and they'll quit contacting you.
What I've gotten is text messages. So they're not calls, but they're text messages from Easy Pass or Easy Toll or whatever the case may be. asking you to click on a link, and it'll say final reminder, pay or you're going to face penalties or jail time or whatever the case may be. I mean, they really do ramp up the scare tactics to get you to click that link, but those links are obviously fraudulent, so you've got to stay away from those. So I guess in those cases, if it's not a phone call, if it's a text, just delete the text and just move on about your day.
Right. You don't want to respond. The worst thing you can do is respond to one of these. Just ignore it.
All right. So again, if you want to ask Carmen a question, please press *3 on your telephone keypad, and you'll go right into our queue, and you'll be able to ask her a question. So we've already covered a couple hot topics that are starting to bubble up or have been bubbling up in Louisiana for quite some time. We have another caller. We have Gladys in Opelousas this is another issue I've ran into, a lot of calls and texts about full cloud storage. So we're going to go to Gladys in Opelousas. Gladys, you there?
Yes, I am.
You want to go ahead and ask your question to Carmen?
Yes, it's about the scams. I get a lot of text scams. Well, I think they're scams saying you must pay a certain amount of money to keep your cloud. Otherwise, your cloud will delete all your pictures. They say that. And they also say that if you don't pay a certain amount of money, it'll affect your entire phone. And I don't know if I guess they're scams, but how can we stop them from doing that? And what can we do?
Well,
I mean,
it's just another form of what I would call a phishing scam. They're throwing out the bait. They want to scare you. They want you to, think that you owe this debt and that you're going to lose all of your data. They're just doing that to get your attention. That's what you have to understand. The thing about it is scammers are on the internet. They see what people are doing every day. They know what's important to consumers. They're not stupid by any, stretch of the imagination. So they're going to pick things that they feel like may get your attention. And that's all they're doing. If you did not solicit it, don't respond. And again, it's very hard to stop these people. But just like you said, if it's a text or an email, just block it or delete it, but don't respond to it. And anytime you have a question about something that you've received and you're just not sure about it, call the Better Business Bureau. We can walk you through it. And it doesn't matter if you have to call us every day until you feel comfortable with it. We will walk you through the situation, but understand that these people are targeting you to try to get you to pay attention and either give them personal financial information, to click on a link, to give you to buy something. In fact, the scammers now are out there are telling you the only way they're going to accept payment is if you buy a gift card, like a cash card, an iTunes card, and they want you to put money on that card and then give them the numbers so that they can withdraw the money. Never fall for any of those. In fact, if you're not familiar with it, you didn't ask for it, don't get involved, don't click on the link. If they're pressure, if there are threats, you have to make this decision immediately or we're going to have a bench warrant for your arrest. All of those things, if it sounds too good to be true, those are the things to look at to know that it's a scam. But if you're still not sure, before you click on it, before you talk to them, call the Better Business Bureau and let us investigate it for you.
The old adage, if it's too good to be true, it probably is, has been around for decades, and I guess it still holds true. If you want to ask us a question, press *3 on your keypad, and we'll be able to get to your question. We have Carmen Million with the Better Business Bureau. Carmen, your number, if people want to contact you, is 225-346-5222, correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Fantastic. And I want to just pause real quickly. It's tax season, so we've got a lot of our members working on their taxes, and it's, getting them filed before April 15th. So there are all kinds of tax-related scams that are starting to pop up. I want to talk about that, but I also want to use this opportunity to plug several free shredding events around the state that AARP is working on and sponsoring and organizing. Some with some are jointly done with the Better Business Bureau. So of course, Carmen, we want to thank you for your support of those. But we have 5 different free shredding events coming up in Louisiana over the next 6 to 8 weeks. We have Lake Charles, April 5th, Shreveport, April 19th, Baton Rouge, April 26th, New Orleans, May 3rd, and Ascension Parish, May 10th. If you want more information about those, you can go to our AARP Louisiana website, which is aarp.org/LA, or you can always go to our AARP Louisiana Facebook page to get the times, the locations, and more information about this free shredding event. But you can shred old documents, up to 3 boxes a person. So want to promote those real quick. But since we are in tax season and tax scams are always on the radar, what can individuals do to spot signs about potential tax scams and to avoid becoming a victim, Carmen?
Well, the first thing is if you receive a call and somebody tells you they're with the IRS, understand that that's a scam. The IRS is not going to call you. They're not going to threaten you. They're going to, if you owe money, they're going to send you a big yellow envelope in the mail. But they're just not going to call you and threaten you, saying that, because they'll tell people you owe back taxes for several years back, and if you don't make payments immediately, we'll have a bench warrant for your arrest. The IRS is not going to do that. In fact, worst case scenario, if you owed money to them, they're just going to confiscate your next return. So understand that it's not the IRS. It doesn't matter if your caller ID says it. In fact, that just kind of reminds me, never trust your caller ID because scammers can manipulate the phone system. So do not trust that. The other thing more concerning to me is that we're receiving calls on is that people who have filed their taxes and then get a note from the Internal Revenue Service saying that the taxes have already been filed and a payment has been issued. That's a concern. And so essentially somebody has gotten a consumer's information, personal information, and filed taxes in their name and received a return. And that's scary. So if you feel like you are one of these people that you're going to receive a refund, we urge you, and I'm sure the IRS urges you, to go ahead and file that return early. The earlier, the better, so that you can make sure that you get it before somebody steals your identity. If you're going to use a tax preparer, then of course we want you to make sure that you investigate the company before you do business with them, because you're essentially giving them all of your personal financial information. So it's very important that you research those companies, contact the Better Business Bureau, investigate the company before you do business with them. You also want to make sure how long that company is going to be around, because if they file your taxes for you and then the IRS comes back with an audit or a question, you want to make sure they're going to be there to support you. So those are the things that you need to be cautious of. But consider filing your taxes sooner rather than later. And if there's a question, you're going to have to contact the Internal Revenue Service immediately.
Great tip. All right, we're going to go to Joe in Ponchatoula. He's got a question about securing his data. Joe, you there?
Yes.
We have Carmen on the line and we have Joe on the line. Joe, go ahead and ask your question.
Okay. Years ago, I participated in 23andMe. I gave them my data or my DNA. I remember spitting into a cup or something like that. And they came back with a report, about the ethnic backgrounds, all the percentages, and a lot of other data too. And in following months, they even asked questions, followed up with surveys about, my background and work and things like that. Well, this was many years ago. I read in the news today that 23andMe is going bankrupt. So they're on the verge of going out of business. And some of these news articles are saying that there's questions and concerns about the security of that data that they have. So that's when my concern is that this could actually turn into some kind of a problem there. My data could be going out. And this is my DNA information out to people. So I'm wondering, how could is there anything I can do to, secure my data, or at least, maybe get it deleted or something like that? Is there anything I can do?
Well, that's a very good question. If the company's going out of business, my advice, if it were me, would be to contact them immediately and say, what do? How do you destroy the information? Do you keep it? Kind of find out what their policy and procedures are. I know that they are, required to properly dispose of that information, but you never know. If they're going out of business, you don't know what they're going to do with it. And we're not talking about your personal financial information. We're not talking about your social security number. We're talking about your DNA, which is concerning. The only thing you could do, though, is reach out to them, see what they're doing to protect you, what the processes are, and then there's nothing really you can do other than, if you start receiving calls, or, maybe check with the police department and see if there's anything else that you could do. But it's your DNA. It's very hard that's unknown territory. Scammers will take advantage of it. There's no doubt about it. Chances probably are slim, but I would still contact them and say, look, what did you do with the data? What did you do with the information? What's your policies and procedures? It might have been a better question at the beginning of the process, but I'm sure it was a new program, so you didn't think to ask that. But I would probably reach out to them now before they actually go out of business.
Um,
It's not a
Thank
good
you for
answer,
that.
but
Well, that's a really good start. And this probably falls into the unknown territory category as well, but it's a really fascinating issue, I think, that's starting to pop up, and that's AI voice cloning scams. We continue to hear about just the emerging technology, which of course, as the technology gets better, the threats get more sophisticated. And this is really where scammers use technology to mimic the voice of a friend or a family member in distress. I mean, we used to hear the old scam about somebody trying to impersonate a family member that may be overseas and needs money wired. But now if you're able to use technology to mimic that voice, how do you protect yourselves from that? How do you know if it's a scam? And because now the impersonations are going to be really identical.
Yeah, you have to understand that, again, scammers are very intelligent, and they're going to take the newest technology, and in this case, it's artificial intelligence, and they're going to use it to their advantage. And consumers have to be more diligent. You have to learn to protect yourself. If somebody's calling you, and even though it sounds like a family member, even though, even if the phone number, if they're saying something that doesn't sound quite right, you need to hang up the phone and call that family member from a number that is good. And this is going to be really silly in a way, but we tell people always to listen to that little, warning in your belly that's telling you something doesn't feel right. Never be afraid to say, "Hey, look, let me call you right back. I'm in a bind," or whatever the case may be. Hang up the phone and call that family member, whoever it is they're supposed to be, to confirm that it's actually them, especially if they're telling you there's an emergency, they need money immediately, or if there's something that involves fear, and a rush. The other thing is artificial intelligence can be a great tool. Unfortunately, all you have to do is go on Facebook or TikTok or any of these other things and see how well they're using it. And of course, if you're seeing a video or whatever on one of the on social media, look really closely. They're not quite perfected yet. You can see some discrepancies in there. Maybe the picture's not clear. You may see it's funny, but you may see a hand with, 8 fingers. That you may see eyes that are different. There may be a little blurring. There's a lot of things to look out for. So don't trust it just because it's on social media. If it's a call, a text, an email, and you're not sure about it, don't respond and contact the person that you think is contacting you to make sure it's legitimate. You'd be surprised. A lot of times they're a victim as well.
Thank you for that, Carmen. This has really been an important discussion. Before we wrap up, Carmen, please share how folks listening can contact you or the Better Business Bureau.
Of course, you can always call us at 225-346-5222. You can go to our website at bbb.org. If you feel like you've been a victim of a scam, then of course we would encourage you to go to our website, bbb.org/scam tracker, and log it. That allows us to know what scams are hitting the area. It also lets the media know so that they can do an alert. And, when in doubt, always call the Better Business Bureau.
Great, thank you. And I'd like to quickly plug a few resources as well. You can always go to our AARP Fraud Watch Network website where you can get fraud tips. You can also check out The Perfect Scam, which is our weekly podcast that focuses exclusively on different fraud topics like what we've talked about today, like especially with AI and those kinds of things. We have our scam tracking map also on our Fraud Watch Network page, which is a really cool interactive feature that allows you to track scams in your area. We're all over the country. And again, all of that is available on AARP's Fraud Watch Network. So it's basically aarp.org/fraudwatch. You'll find all kinds of great information there and all those additional helpful tips. So again, we want to remind everyone that AARP has several free shredding events happening throughout Louisiana in the months of April and May. Again, Lake Charles on April 5th, Shreveport April 19th, Baton Rouge April 26th, New Orleans May 3rd, and Ascension Parish May 10th. You can find out more about those on our state page, which is aarp.org/LA. Of course, you can always go to our Facebook page, AARP Louisiana. So knowledge is power, like we always say. So use the information, use the resources that we have, and that will help you stay safe. So I want to thank Carmen again for joining us this morning. I want to thank all of our participants. Stay safe and have a great rest of your day.